Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. A couple of requests. Everybody take their cell phones, make sure they are set to vibrate or off. And also, when you come up to say a few words, please come up and just stand the way I'm standing. No need to touch the microphone. It'll pick you up. And we'll start this celebration of life for Mr. Douglas Bailey. Thank you. Anybody that would like to come up and speak, you may do so now. Number one.
Get it over. I didn't know what the format was going to be. Hi, everybody. We're all here in a somber place, a chapel. We're dressed in dark clothes, and we feel sad about Doug and what Christine and family are going through, what we're all going through. But let's have some fun, okay? Because this guy had more fun than anybody I've ever known. He really lived a life. Doug and I met 22 years ago when I joined TriNet. And he was the most senior salesperson in the company. I was brand new. I was the newest. And he was by far the most successful guy in the company. But I joined, and Doug took me under his wing, and he mentored a lot of people after me. I was there for 12 years, and Doug and I was senior, and he was senior, I would say, after 12 years. And we had so much fun. We got to know Doug and Christine well, because my wife Hillary and I, we went on 10 what are called President Club trips, where you get to go on vacations with the top salespeople. And in our case, we went to the Bahamas, we went all through the Caribbean, we went through Mexico, we went to Hawaii a few times. And when I think about Doug, I don't know what one word comes in mind for all of you, but for me it's pleasure. It was starting with a pleasure to know him, but also it was a pleasure to spend time with him. It was a pleasure to hear what he was working on, to work with him. And when I retired from TriNet after 12 years, Doug hung on for another 2. He was there for 17. The moment he left, I said, "Would you please be my business partner?" And he said yes, and it was the best decision, well, second best decision I ever made. It was right up there. Doug and I have been friends then for 22 years. Never, I was thinking about this, we never had a disagreement, never had an argument. We got along, and he joined me, and every new client we brought onto the company I formed, we worked together, and every client was so enamored with Doug. There's been letters pouring in because the word's out that he passed, and people are saying the nicest things, and he made them feel so comfortable. He had a way about him where he was smarter than any of us, more experienced, but he never came off as being arrogant or pushy. The people that we did business with were all enamored, and we did a lot of business together, even though we barely worked, I don't mind saying. But I'll say that it gives me pleasure. The word is pleasure. When I think about all the time we spent, his life, I was the one who got to put this video together and come up with these 12 milestones. Christine shared all the photos, and I have to say, I used maybe a quarter of the good photos. They had a lot of fun. I can't believe Doug didn't weigh 500 pounds, because there's so many images of them eating at nice restaurants and dining and having a great time. So if you haven't seen the video yet, please see it. It's on YouTube. There's links to it from this website. And I just want to say that, yeah, it's somber. I feel horrible that he didn't live a longer life. But he was la dolce vita all the way. And they're home in Italy and all. Didn't get a chance to go, but who knows. I just hope other people have the same type of feeling I do, that Doug, he'll be with me the rest of my days. Thank you.
Christine and Linda, no dirty jokes. Hi, everybody. I don't know most of you. My name is John Mercantini, and I've actually known Christine much longer than I've known Doug, from way back when. And I always called him the professor. My last name is Mercantini. I'm a full-blooded Italian. I grew up in an Italian house. And Doug's the only guy I know who used to correct my Italian. And he was an interesting guy. He was like a real student of everything he did, and quite a guy. I used to look at him and look at the way he dressed. And there used to be a thing. I grew up in New Jersey, and they say nothing has a bigger ego than the Italian male. But then I looked at Doug and I said, this guy's not even Italian. So, what the point I want to make is, I finally said to Doug one day, he corrected, my family, there's a little soup they make during the holidays in Italian households, cappelliti soup. But he corrected that. He thought correctly. He says, it's not cappelliti, it's cappelletti. I said, in Umbria, it's cappelliti. Okay? I said, but I'm going to tell you something, Doug. When I'm with you, I don't even feel like I'm Italian. He was a great guy, really classy, and just going to miss him.
I prepared some remarks here. Bruce Byers is my name. I've known Christine for a long time, and Doug for less time, but a long time as well. In common. We both grew up in the Air Force. His dad was in the Air Force, my dad was in the Air Force. Doug spent a long time in Sicily because there's a big Air Force base there, probably where he learned Italian. So the two of us in military families learned self-discipline, learned how to help other people, and we did this most of our lives. And from what people have said here today, I can see that Doug was really an outgoing, friendly, and helpful person to all the people he knew. And this is my experience and knowledge of Doug and others. Doug and Christine were wonderful hosts at many gatherings in their beautiful home in Reston. And my wife and I enjoyed being their guests and getting together with many of you in this room from time to time. We attended all of this, the wonderful hospitality and friendship that Doug and Christina showed to us and to all of you. So it's difficult for me to stand here today and speak about this. I enjoy the remarks that others have made, but I think it's worth remembering all of this because all that we have experienced thanks to Doug's generosity and kindness and welcoming friendship. These are the things that we can take with us in memory of him from this day on into the future. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Renee West, and I met Doug and Christine about 5 years ago on the Lifetime Connection. He started coming to my yoga classes and would always sit in the back row, number 38, and I mean always. And Doug could do a forward fold unlike anybody I'd seen. He was amazing, amazing. But the one thing he didn't like to do was to he called it toe torture, is when you stretch out your toes and your ankles and you're sitting back on your heels. So he really didn't like it at all. But he always put a touch me card. So you can't touch a student unless they have this touch me card that they have to go get and put it at the front of your mat. So every class, he always had one. Christine started out that way. She soon changed her ways, though. She's like, you get near me. And it wasn't anything. It was just, I mean, it was a lot, actually. It's very basic. Your hands go on the student. It's not something that's not adjusting them in any way. It's just breathing. It's sending that breath to them. So it went from forward folds and toe torture to wine dinners, lots of, I don't know, yoga and wine dinners, but they went together really well. And I don't know who gave him all those bad jokes, but see me afterwards, because I listened. He had too many. And just a lot of fun together, and meeting them and going out with them and living life, and you know, it was a lot of fun. We enjoyed it. At the same time, it was Sunday, 3:30, he was there. He showed up every Sunday. If he wasn't there, he'd say, I can't be here because whatever, you know, his schedule. And so it dawned on me recently, like the other night, I was there in the room on the Friday when he passed, and I was giving him a toe rub, a foot rub. And I thought, Doug, it's not toe torture anymore. And my hands were on him. And instead of that breath going in, it slowly was coming out. And it was just a really difficult thing. My class, I announced it, and I thought I could keep it together, and I couldn't. But it was a privilege to have known him. So I always end my classes with a quote, and this one's by Winnie the Pooh. How lucky I am to have known someone that makes me say goodbye, and it's so hard. Thank you.
I prepared a little something, and we haven't known Doug as long as many of you here, but I will tell you how we met, and it's by all means no surprise. So back in 2017, we happened to go to a wine dinner. So, and guess who was there? And guess who was seated next to us? So it happened to be Christine and Doug, and we struck up a conversation, and we figured out we both love food and wine. So from there, great things happened. We happened to have, probably within the next couple of weeks, we had a little get-together at our home, and we called it the Flight Club. And this is where we put out wine, and people brought little bites to see who paired best with the wine. So at that dinner party, I learned how good they were at cooking. Not only eating and drinking, but also they were superb chefs. So from that time, we kind of went out and we started learning more about them and how, you know, Doug was Italian, essentially. And he wasn't, but he was probably the most Italian of all people I've ever met. So anyway, then we found out that they were building a home, or renovating a home rather, in Italy. So one thing I did learn about Doug was that when he decided he wanted to do something, he made it happen. And at some point I said, well, this is never going to happen. And surprise, surprise, it did. And he started doing a blog, and we started following the blog, and when he was back in town, we would go out to dinner, we would ask how it's coming, and it was just amazing how much progress he made in such a short time. And so last October, we were lucky enough to come and visit them in their home. And we found out he had truly built a life there. I mean, he knew all the locals. I mean, they would say hi to him. He went to the neighborhood gym. He spent time at the cafes. And I don't know, it felt like he had been there his entire life. So he just fit right in. And it was just amazing to see how happy and how he beamed with just, he was just in his element. So one thing I did learn from Doug is that if you have a dream, you can make it real if you're willing to work for it. And that's what he did. This was his dream. And Doug did exactly that. He built a dream and shared the joy with the people around him. And my last word is that Doug didn't just dream about the life he wanted, he actually lived it. So, and that's how I will always remember him. So.
Hi, my name is Fred. I'm a business friend of Doug's, and since she had mentioned that Doug always told bad jokes, I'm going to tell a punchline to a joke that Doug had, which was great. We met in 2002. We were in a business mastermind group, so people of various businesses would get together. We would meet, I think it was once a month or maybe every week or something like that. So the way that the group worked was you would go around. It was maybe 15, 20 people, and you would first talk about your business, what you're looking for. You know, and he was with TriNet, and I was an independent consultant. So you would say, oh, I'm looking for VPs of marketing, or wherever it might be. Talk about your company for a minute, and then everybody will go around the room. Then you will go back around the room, and you will give a business tip or an idea, something to motivate people. And I was thinking about what to talk about with Doug. So it was my turn to give the business tip. And we spent a lot of time thinking about this. This was probably 2008 or 9. And I said, here's my suggestion. Every day, go to work a different way. Drive a different route. Go a different path. Go a different course. That's going to get your brain going. And Doug raised his hand and said, Fred works from home. And he was like from 2008, and Christine, he was such a great guy. I remember when he met you, and I miss my friend.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mike Baker, and I was actually in that business group with Fred. Doug was actually the one that brought me into the group, and I remember he called me afterwards. And Fred goes, hey, that guy Mike Baker you brought, man, he's a really good guy. And Doug looks at him, he's like, Fred, you think I'd bring some idiot into your group? Man, he's like, come on, give me a little street cred. But I've known Doug for over 20 years through the business world, and I think what I've heard here is who he was. And if I had had a few minutes to prepare, I think I could have come up with something better, but I think I can kind of summarize it in 3 things. Doug was always the best dressed guy around, right? And I mean, whether it was white pants, blue pants, hot pink, hot blue, hot white, I mean, wow. And this was like before the European golfers made some of this stuff cool. It looked cool on him. And he showed up. We had a golf tournament every year, and we're thinking, this guy better know what he's doing. You can't dress like that and come out and play bad golf. And darn it, if I didn't realize, I think he won every single tournament we had. And the reason I wasn't tracking it until a few months ago. And when you guys came back and packed up some of the last stuff to take it over to Italy, he didn't have room for all the trophies. And so he took the plaques off all of them and took a picture of them. And he took the plaques and he emailed us a picture of all the plaques. And I'm like, 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, is there any year he didn't win? No wonder why he liked those tournaments. And cars. I love cars. You know, I always think of cars. He called me one day. He goes, you in the office? I see. He goes, looking out your window. And I'm in Tyson's, and there's a parking deck right there. And he had just brought the brand new, the electric BMW that he was so proud of that. He goes, come on down, let's take a ride in it. And he's honking the horn. You can't hear him because it's outside, but I'm like, pretty cool. And golf, really. So he played with us every year, but the last time I played golf was actually our one-day member guest a couple of years ago. And neither one of us played bad, but it was great to spend the whole day with him. The first 2 times I took him to my course, it rained or there was lightning, and we got the horn blew, and we had to come off the course. And he got to the point where he kept saying, Mike, honestly, I don't think there's a back 9 on this course. He never got a chance to play like the last few holes because we couldn't because of weather. But in the member guest we did. He got to see the whole course, and it was in good shape that day, and we had a great day. together. It was always a pleasure to deal with Doug. When I look at my calendar a week in advance and I see Doug and then Doug and Christine on there, I was like, well, I know that's going to be a good day right there. So he had sent me some messages. I knew he was coming back. I texted him. I was like, hey, welcome to town. Naively, I was thinking maybe he's just going to be in town for a couple weeks. Let me know when you're going back so we can get together. And then didn't hear for a couple days, which is unusual from him. So very, very sudden and sad to get the email, Christine, that I got from you. I shared it with the whole team. We all here feel the same way. And Doug is not here, but I want you to know that we are all here for you forever. Thank you all for being here.
Buonasera. I was at that beautiful wedding in 2013, and it was an amazing, and just a testament to, we talked about it, I was born in Italy, but Doug is much more Italian than I am. We never talked about fast food, you know, and it was always amazing that I got the privilege of working with him. I worked at TriNet since 2007, so we've known each other for 19 years. And myself and Ray and the others from TriNet here, we looked to him for guidance and from counsel and from mentorship. And we had the privilege of taking our company public in 2014. And if it wasn't for the work that Doug had done, we would not have had the success at TriNet. And I always say, the one thing, there are people in this world that are very rare, and I remember always, whenever I'm having a bad day or a bad week, I would call Doug. And there are certain people in this world where you can have a 2-minute conversation with them, and it changes the trajectory of your day. And so when I would be telling him about my weekend, he would then go on a 30-minute dissertation on every food he had, every wine he had, what the texture of the wine was. And he had a sprezzatura, which I always try to translate as a nonchalance way of like a casual elegance to his life. And it just, everything he did. He also had the only American name that I've not been able to find an appropriate translation for. Think about it, right? So Peter is Pietro, Salvatore is Sal, Douglas, Doug. Doug. But yet he was more Italian than most Italians. So I was, again, very blessed to have spent time, and we really did a lot of things together. And the two regrets I have since the last couple of years, one was there was a great dinner in one of these towns, I think that was the previous slide, that I was invited to and I wasn't able to go. The second one is last year my wife Anna and I were going to go to Italy and see the house, because that's, you know, he built the dream that most people just talk about, right? I've wanted to build a house in Lucca, and he beat me to it, and I hated him for it. But I wanted to go there, but I regret that, because that's part of the wonderful thing that he was. And then I wanted to see his collection of vests that he collects. And the last story I tell is the first time after I joined TriNet, we went to this Italian restaurant in Massachusetts, where I'm from, called La Campagna. And I had just casually talked to him. And we sat down, and he asked for the wine list. So they bring the wine list, and it's pretty substantial. How much time do you think we spent looking at each one of those wines? He asked the sommelier every question. Where is Pecorino wine from? Where is Lamarque wine from? And that's what he had. He had that gusto for everything Italian. He was a man of great integrity, and he will be sorely, sorely missed in those conversations. But I always say is, in Italian, I used to say this all the time when I had these losses in my family, is la vita finisce, ma i ricordi sono per sempre. Life does end, but those memories keep us going. So I hope we can keep those memories alive, because that's what he wanted to do. And the good news is he's with God, and the better news is God now has a great person to order food for everybody.
I didn't really expect to be up here, but I just wanted to tell you that I substitute teach at the Lifetime that Doug used to go to, and Christine. And I was sub one time for the wonderful Renee, and I was like, oh my gosh, so nervous, big shoes to fill. Anyway, a week later, I see this gentleman come into my class, and I was like, oh, didn't I see you at Reston? And he was like, yeah, I've come to try your class out. And I remember him always being so well put together, and he always had a wonderful practice when we were doing our yin practice. And eventually he got Christine to come and do a class with us, and then we used to chat a lot. He always gave me a joke every time I saw him. Some of them way saucier than you might like, but I loved it because I loved his sense of humor and his spirit. One day we were all chatting together, and you know, Doug loved his threads, he loved looking good, and all the colors he was so graciously and happy to wear. And he was saying, well, you know, my closet is color coordinated. And I said, what? I said, oh my gosh, does Christine help you with that? And he said, well, not really. So I said, well, I need you and Christine to come and color coordinate my closet for me. And he said, but Kathy, isn't everybody's? I had a good giggle at that. And I feel like I haven't known Doug or Christine for very long, and it seems like I haven't known them for long, but I feel like I've known them for a long, long time. I've only known Doug since about the beginning of 2024, but he has left a huge crater in my heart. And wonderful words from all of you, and Christine, we're here for you. Thank you. Hi, everyone. So Renee was a Saturday's yoga class teacher. Kathy was Tuesday yoga teacher. I'm Thursday yoga teacher. If you have been wondering why that young girl here, it's my also first time funeral attending. What I realized just recently that Doug is only a few years younger than my parents, that I never even realized his biological age, because he was always acting young, pretty active in the class, and my yoga class was always ending with his dirty joke. He had a few followers, and we were always asking, what is today's joke? He was also an Italian food teacher to me, so I was always consulting, like, what's today's menu? Every time I was seeing him. What I remember about him is how passionate about what he knows, all that Italian, that area, the Marche that he moved in, with his blog that he was posting. And yeah, he was also nudging me to plan a yoga retreat with other yoga friends. So we were actually actively planning on it, like until recently, that we didn't know that this will happen. So it was really sad news. But I'm also glad to see how he's remembered with his witty jokes and his energy that he was sharing with everyone. That's also what I remember about him. Thank you.
So one thing I have to correct Renee on is it said, touch me please, on the yoga mat. I was fortunate enough to meet Doug through my wife's teaching of Italian to Christine. And talk about somebody full of life, full of love. And it's wonderful today for me to see this other side of him, this professional side, because if you ask Doug what he did for a living, he'd say, well, you know, I'm into HR or something like this, and totally downplay this unbelievably important career. He would talk about more about being at the BX at Sigonella. So I'm going to tell you a Doug joke, and then I've got something a little more serious to talk about. But how many people in this room remember VHS? Right? Remember VHS? And then after VHS, there came CDs, but the video version of the CD, right, was called a laser disc. Laser discs were big, and you had to be a real videophile to have one. So Doug would tell this great joke. He'd say, I'd be in the BX, Sigonella, and some of the Asian customers come in and say, do you have leather dick? And he'd say, what? And he'd say, leather dick, I want leather dick. And it was laser dick disc. But the way Doug delivered the joke was just precious. So, I took a moment just to write some thoughts about Doug, and I cannot be closer to a description than a real Renaissance man. And he would probably say a Renaissance woman too, but we'll go with Renaissance man. So what was the most important lesson that Doug Bailey taught me? Sous vide. You go to Doug's house, and he doesn't just put on a dinner. He's dressed the part, he's got the hat, everything, but then whatever he's prepared, it cannot go wrong because it has been cooking for 24 hours at a constant temperature in a vacuum package, and it just is perfect. Just perfect. That is sous vide. Along with that, filet mignon or lamb chop or whatever he prepared in the sous vide was a paired wine. And let me tell you something, you could not deviate from his wine pairings. He would have the white first and then the red, and he would know everything about those wines. So he taught me the culinary mastery of sous vide. That's to me very important because it's such a precise art. What I was envious about Doug was his linguistic abilities. He wasn't perfect. He made mistakes, but he tried. And to be able to see, I don't think he was Irish. I am almost positive that somehow he was, left on the doorstep and was 100% Italian. But his cultural knowledge in his blog, paired with his just love of the Italian language, everything Italian. I mean, I don't even know how he married you. You should have been an Italian bombshell. So we'll leave that to Doug's knowledge. Something that he did, and others have touched on this, is he set a goal to build a home in Italy, and come hell or high water, he did it. And a lot of people at his age, his physical age, right, because his age in life seemed so young, but he was 70. And in his 70s, he was building this home and doing with such precision, okay? A lot of people give up at 50. A lot of people give up for sure at 60. A lot of people say, I can't afford it at 70. He said, F that, and he built it. And we were able to visit him in August, and it is sublime. An infinity pool that looks over the Adriatic, I mean, it was just wonderful. So bravo. Something that I was always impressed with was his physical fitness and his golfing skills. Many of you have talked about he never lost a championship. He downplayed that. So many people brag about their handicap or, their abilities, athletic abilities. He just walked out in these little shorts and he's, in his shirt. And who knew he could swing that club like that? I didn't know because I didn't play golf with him, but those that did, I think, were envious of his talent. Finally, I really admired his ability to continue the search for knowledge, reading in details. When we visit Doug, you had to be ready, because it was going to be like a fire hose of information. This chiesa was built in such and such, but he knew everything in detail. And then he had the time and effort to share it through his blog and anyone that he talked to. So, he's with us.
Sorry, my voice is low, so I hope. My name is Marina, and I'm a friend of Doug and Christine's. I met Doug through Christine because she was my student in one of my Italian classes, and of course, due to their love for Italy and everything Italian, we became very, very good friends, and we will always be. There's not much that I can add to what everybody says about Doug. It was clear. He had a passion for life, and that's why, excuse my word, it sucks that he died so young. I'm so mad and so sad about it. He loved Italy almost as much as I do, maybe more. He loved Italian, he loved good wine, he loved good food. He had great taste in women. You see why. And for this reason, I don't think that his dying ends what he was. I know that he is with us today, and I'm going to try to read this poem because I really hope, I almost believe that that's what happens when you die. Actually, I want to believe it. It's a poem by Henry Scott Holland. Death is nothing at all. It doesn't count. I've only slipped away into the next room. Nothing has happened. Everything remains exactly as it was. I am I, and you are you, and the old life that we lived so fondly together is untouched, unchanged. Whatever we were to each other, that we are still. Call me by my familiar name, Ciccio. Speak of me in the way which you always used. Put no difference in your tone. Wear no forced air of solemnity or sorrow. Laugh as we always laughed at the little jokes that we enjoyed together. Play, smile, think of me, pray for me. Let my name be ever the household word that it always was. Let it be spoken without an effort, without the ghost of a shadow upon it. Life means all that it ever meant. It is the same as it ever was. There is absolute and unbroken continuity. What is this death but a negligible accident? Why should I be out of mind because I am out of sight? I am but waiting for you, for an interval, somewhere very near, just around the corner. All is well. Nothing is hurt. Nothing is lost. One brief moment, and all will be as it was before. How we shall laugh at the trouble of parting when we meet again.
Is there anybody else? Okay then. We close the service, you would like to invite everybody over to Davio's today. Davio's in Reston from 5:30 to 7:30, correct? Okay. And we decided to end this celebration of life with the Lord's Prayer. So if you bow your head and say a prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, power, and the glory forever. Ladies and gentlemen, this does conclude the services for today. Thank you very much.